Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the JT and Big O podcast. We are your hosts, Video Geek JT McGuire and Ryan Big O'Regan. How are you doing, my friend?
Doing better than a lot of other people apparently this week, but it's also if my mother and sister happen to be listening to today's episode, happy birthday. It's going to be weird having to go ahead and do all that sort of stuff. I just realized I can't go have cake with them. So it's like, ugh. So I'm just going to buy myself a cake and I will celebrate in their honor.
It's a tough time for families. Like there's situations like this, which is really tough where a family member is having a birthday and stuff. And I really feel for you and your family not being able to get together at this time.
Oh, that's fine. I'm just trying to find an excuse to be a fat kid. You know, I have the opportunity. Let me use it.
I remember when I was much younger, I was a cashier at a supermarket, and like 11 p.m. at night, I'm finishing up near the end of my shift, and this young woman actually comes online with a birthday cake, and she just starts crying and goes, "Isn't it sad that like I have to be here to buy my own birthday cake?" Sometimes life is tough.
That reminds me of that one birthday at the strip club. Ugh.
I have questions.
You don't want the answers.
You know what? You're probably right about that. And also
levity.
And other things too, such as like, what happens when there's a death in the family, especially recently. Like I won't get into it, but people can't go to funerals at the moment. They can't honor someone. And actually just a few days ago, professional wrestling legend Howard Finkel passed away.
Yes, the voice of the WWE for many a generation. It was always weird because you always saw what Howard Finkel looked like,
mm-hmm.
and the voice never matched up. I don't know why. Like he just when you had like that low bass, that booming bass, and then he kind of looks like somebody who would do your taxes. I never really got it. Even when he was in his younger years, like he was technically like the first employee contracted by the WWE. He like back when they were the WWF. He was their first employee. And even then, he looked like an old man. It's like, I couldn't get it.
Some people go balder a little sooner than other people. And sorry for
it wasn't even the bald. It was the mustache. He had a porn stash that just kept staying with him for his entire career. And that's saying something for an industry where it's like all big, beefy men oiled up and everything. And yet he had the most porn stashy mustache, except for maybe Rick Rude.
He speaking about the voice, even if it didn't match the body, it was such an amazing voice, and his delivery was always so great. I don't remember the last time that he did any ring announcing for the WWE, but it still sticks in my head just what a great announcer he was when he did do the shows, more than almost any other announcer in recent years.
Yeah, I'd say the last time I heard his voice do his thing, it probably was back when he was inducted into the Hall of Fame, and he had his speech then. I don't know if he's actually done any match since. That would probably take a little more research than I was willing to do, simply because there was so much more to research. But yes, the memory of the man should be acknowledged, especially given this past week and all the unfortunate untimeliness. And yeah, I mean, they'll do whatever little celebration they can on television or on the website or anything like that. And I think just considering who he was and how much of a staple he was to the company, it's kind of like weird timing, I'd say. But yes, R.I.P. to the Fink.
Yeah, I don't know even what else to say about it. It's just it is sad.
Can you do a Fink voice? Can you do a commentator like that low?
Ladies and gentlemen, we wish you. I don't even know what to say. I'm coming close, aren't I?
A little bit. It's kind of more like a. And your new WWF Heavyweight champion, Triple H.
Not quite
Well,
there.
that's
Sorry to
him in
say.
like old age. I can't do young Fink. And if I do young Fink, I'm gonna be like calling from my balls or something. It's like I don't have the positioning set to do that.
And as we're trying to do our best announcer voice, I'm just recalling like we recently asked some of our fans about their opinion on some of the things that need to be tweaked, and one of them was like, "You really need to check the audio levels of your show." So we're sorry for that right there,
What did
but
I peak?
just a tiny bit, just a tiny bit.
Well, I mean, when you're trying to do the Fink, yeah, you're not doing the Tony Chimmel. You got to get that bass in there.
Oh, Fink was there now. I'd be saying something like, in attendance at WWE headquarters,
Oh,
20 wrestlers who might be falling to their doom.
oh, oh, you're talking about the Money in the Bank pay-per-view that a lot of people were surprised was even being promoted.
Yeah, from like, wasn't it canceled like a week ago? And now all of a
It's
sudden it's like, oh, look at this. WWE is building stuff on top of their headquarters, and they're going to have wrestlers fighting through their headquarters like it was that old Super Bowl commercial from 2000s where they're just trying to get to the top to get a briefcase.
it's not that it was canceled. Certainly, they went ahead and promoted it during WrestleMania. There was an advert during the two-night event stating that it was going to be held. And then the location that it was going to be held at, they said, no, we can't do that. But of course, Vince McMahon, in his infinite wisdom, he's like, no, we're going to keep doing it. We're just going to need a location that's secluded, that we can control, that's large enough that we can work with, and apparently still dangerous. So yeah, why not do it from the office?
What I'm not really getting about this is okay, we're going to touch on a whole bunch of subjects, including the whole Florida thing. But sticking on the headquarters, which is in Connecticut, I don't think that's been approved to be used for any non-essential use.
Yeah,
So
that's where the curiosity comes into play, because obviously the things have been allowed in Florida as of yet, especially now that they've deemed it an essential business, which oh,
we
there's so
will
much
get
wrong
to.
there. But I don't know what Connecticut's rules are in regards to any business particularly being open or not, unless for whatever reason the building itself is more categorized by just the fact that it's owned by McMahon, and maybe it's not a lease sort of thing, so that this way they have more control over what goes on in the space. Like, it's
I
one thing to maybe call it an essential business building, but maybe it's not an essential business building. Maybe it's just more like an additional home. It depends on how they have it zoned, I suppose.
well, that's an interesting thing because I remember just driving around there once. It's a funny thing if you've never been to the WWE headquarters, like the one that you saw in Vince McMahon's Titantron video back in the day. One, it's not nearly as big as you think it is. It's actually fairly small. It's just where you can angle it right to make it look bigger.
No, it's probably
Two,
what, only 4 or 5 floors, right?
yeah. And in addition to that, it is more or less in a residential neighborhood. Like there is a house right next door to the place. Not like a giant house. I mean like a house you would find in a regular New Jersey suburb. It's weird. It's really weird. So it might be I'm pretty sure it's designated as a business area, a district, but and it's also right next door to a suburban area.
Imagine being that house.
There,
Like, if
you
you
know,
have no connection to the McMahon family or the industry whatsoever, and you just happen to be like, Ma and Pa Kettle living next door to that big building, it's like, I could imagine like the little old lady looking out the window and be like, Jasper, they're building something on top of the tower. It's an illegal extension. I'm gonna call the board.
I imagine if they're not wrestling fans either. It's just like we've had to live near these people for how many years now.
I like that Cody Rhodes. Whatever happened to him? Don't bring it up, Ethel.
I'm looking at Connecticut's website of essential businesses right now. Let's see what they got here real quick. Essential workers in the 16 critical infrastructure sections. as defined by the Federal Department of Homeland Security, unless otherwise addressed in a prior or future executive order. We have healthcare and related operation, including biotechnology, consumer health products and services, doctors and dentists, elder elder care, including adult daycare. There's adult daycare. Okay. Healthcare plans, home healthcare workers. I'm seeing a lot of healthcare. I'm not seeing a lot of professional wrestling here yet.
No, but the
Uh,
elder care, I'm just thinking everyone having to take care of Vince.
it's like that's how they got around it. It's like,
Yeah. It's
no,
like, do you
we
realize how many people it takes to wrangle in Vince? We need a company's worth.
I could see that. Uh
I could just imagine Stone Cold with there with the bedpan. It's like, I'm ready for you, Vince.
um yeah, I'm looking through here. I've just there's a long list of stuff they're allowing though. So I'm
Well,
not going to go through it all, but this is a lot bigger than I thought. Maybe there is something in here that's allowing them to get away with this.
I mean, I kind of wouldn't be surprised. I mean,
News and
as
media.
far as like
There you
problem
go.
states, Connecticut hasn't been one.
True, but still, but yeah, I'm looking at right here. News and media is allowed. So, but that's really qualified as broadcast news. That's why they're saying news and media. But I don't know. Maybe Vince worked a loophole around and say, "Well, we're media, buddy." So,
Well, that's how they were getting around it in Florida. They were originally saying that when they were doing the tapings, that the people on staff, even the performers, were essential media before they
yeah.
said that wrestling was an essential business. So that's probably the angle.
Well, all right. So there is a loophole here why they're possibly doing this. But either way,
Well, come on, Vince has
ah,
got the fix in with Trump as it is. I mean, he'll find a way come hell or high water.
uh, yeah, and those two are so freaking alike. Of course, that they're always in league together.
Yeah,
Is
I
it
know we always go and say we're not talking politics, but I mean,
a
it
lot of it involves
has to
politics?
be
It's like,
mentioned in this sense,
yeah.
especially with the whole super PAC from Linda McMahon helping out Trump, and then Vince being brought onto a board of like many big business people to try to kick back the economy because Vince has been so good with managing money.
He actually kind of is. Like, look how much money he's accumulated the last few years, and actually, that kind of goes into our main subject of today. Uh,
Does it?
yeah, it does. It does. Just like that segue, and we ruined it. So anyway,
I ruined nothing.
and so a lot of what we're going to be talking about today is WWE and some of the stuff that they've done this last week, where they have decided that they have needed to do a lot of cutbacks because they need to make sure they earn a profit this year, even though analysts have been saying that they were going to make a larger profit this year. Even if things stayed this way they are right now, they would have been one of their highest grossing years. But still, let's fire a whole bunch of wrestlers who cannot get any work right now because the economy has pretty much come to a halt.
Now, of course, we should mention that once again, we are going off of the idea that GT has his business degree, so I know he's going to be very heartfelt about the business analytics of it. I know nothing of that. I am simply the emotional dummy that's like, why are you going to do everything at once?
Yeah, I'm a little heartfelt here as well though, because even it I'm not let's put it this way. I have a finance degree. I have not used it in the 12 years I've had it. My biggest thing is going to be look money, but in this case scenario, there's no excuse. I could see a business doing this if they're like for the XFL, and I have friends who were affected by the collapse of XFL. One of our good friends, a former podcast partner of mine, Scott Churchton, he was actually working for Football Game Plan as a XFL correspondent, and now with the exit of the XFL, that's no longer there for him. And in addition to him, that's a third party companies that were uh, getting money and having jobs because of the XFL. Of course, the XFL himself is now out of business and will be filing
Again,
for bankruptcy. There's a whole bunch of people there who have been cut and have lost their jobs and no longer have insurance, and I feel for them as well. But in that case scenario, that was a startup that didn't really have any type of backup plan. The entire thing was, well, I'm going to get into this, but the majority of it was funded directly from Vince McMahon himself. I understand why they folded. I understand why they fired all those people. I understand why they're filing for bankruptcy. WWE, though, is not in the same boat as that. WWE has recently told its stockholders that they have $500 million in a reserve for a rainy day. Pretty much, if they lost a whole bunch of money this year, they would still have a protection of $500 million. In addition to that, as I had just said, and I hate repeating myself, they were planning to make around over $100 million this year in profit, not just all around uh, net profit. So that was going to be one of their highest grossing years ever. And again, this is with the cut to the live events, the cut in other areas of production. Uh, they were still going to make that much money. But at the end of the day, they decided, well, we still need to save even more money, and they cut around 40% of their staff. This is ignoring the wrestlers, which we will be get talking about because I know people want to hear about what happened to these wrestlers. But in general, 40% of their staff was cut. 40% of the people who now have no incoming income will have a hard time finding a job in the economy right now because everyone's stuck in the house and quarantined and there is no jobs. And 40% and people who will not have health insurance in a time where we are in a health crisis. It's crazy.
It's not fun.
No.
Um, I mean, what can I say that hasn't already been said by you at this point? Because obviously, you've hit all the main factors. It's just look. One of the best things about WWE is kind of shitting on the WWE. All right, we know that we can do it. They know they can take it.
Mhm.
But at this point, you kind of almost have to wonder, why do we continue to encourage the machinations of certain people? Now, some will say, well, I still want to show my support for the wrestlers that are still on the brand. I
Mhm.
want to be able to support the brand that is housing that talent. That I can understand. Because for at the end of the day, as much as I may feel for the many people that have lost their jobs, I am glad that Finn Balor is still employed. I am glad that AJ Styles is still employed. I am glad that The Undertaker is still alive at this point. You know, I have my heart dear favorites that I want to make sure that they're still good and that they're still working and that they're still safe.
Well,
Uh,
with
so
people like AJ Styles, like, and here we can dig so deep into this. AJ Styles, he has a family, he has a wife, he has plenty of kids.
right.
He said he was probably going to finish up his career in WWE. But at the same time, they just fired two of his best friends, and now he's stuck in this. I believe it's a 5-year contract. Like, do you think he would have stuck around if he knew that two of his best friends, who were also in a major storyline with him, were going to get canned?
Well, I mean that's the catch of it because Luke Gallows and Anderson, they were also in the 5-year contract. They basically shackled them all together almost in the same dealing. So as far as WWE was concerned, they were going to try to keep all three of them together. And just for one reason or another, even though these guys were just in WrestleMania, just in one of the more notable matches of the
In
2-night
this,
event,
in the second main event, in the main event of the first night of WrestleMania.
yeah, and they get shit canned. Eh, I mean, I know AJ Styles probably has like a little bit of like survivor's remorse to him because he probably feels like, why me and not them? Why not all three of us? Why split us up again? Why, after everything we've gone through, after everything we just risked in putting on this cinematic event for the company, do they let them go? And he's probably not too keen on the idea. Do I think he would have gone ahead and left or not re-signed? I don't know about that because at the end of the day, he still has his own family to think about.
Right.
And until
And
he's got that settled up, I don't think he's going to go. I mean, even if he did leave, he'd probably be going to like some of the other brands.
yeah,
I'm
and
sure he'd go back to New Japan.
AJ Styles is a guy who he has a job no matter what. Like who wouldn't want to have AJ Styles on their roster right now? He is not only is
Probably
his
Impact.
name I
I just
Impact would
lost
want him
fans.
too. Like I don't know a wrestling company who would not want him because it would be so stupid not to have him. Not only is he a big name brand who he owns his name, so he's going to bring his name with him.
Hmm.
He's still a tremendous wrestler, and he's improved greatly at.
Uh,
He is the current Bret the Hitman Hart, if I may say so.
it's- I don't know about that. He's got more charisma than Bret the Hitman Hart. I mean, he's a content professional, yes, but
I would say in
man's got
terms
some
of positioning
charm.
from like the '90s to now,
I know,
like
but Bret never had charm. Bret was just like he was a worker. He was the guy that you went to if you knew that you
but
needed
the
the match to be taken care of. AJ is a sideshow in himself because AJ is one of those guys that's like you're not sure. Like even when he's a heel or a face, it doesn't matter because he's still got like that. First of all, that hair, love the hair.
yeah,
Second of all, the charisma is just he's an entity into himself, regardless of whether or not he's with a club, regardless of whether or not he's with the OC. It's hard to really say that you need one to get the other guys going.
but I don't want to stick on AJ Styles too long because again, he does have his job. He is safe. But Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows, I think of all the people who got released, they're probably the safest. I'm pretty sure once things do start up again, they definitely have the option of becoming part uh of either New Japan Pro Wrestling. Of course, they're former members of the Bullet Club. And if you can hear my dog barking, I apologize. She is nowhere near me, so I can't do anything about it right now. Uh, so they're former members of the Bullet Club, so there's a good chance that AEW in the United States could hire them, or ROH could hire them. They have options, and there's a few other guys here too. Um, I want to point out one of the guys that I've kind of liked over the years, and I always felt that WWE always kind of wasted, which was Zack Ryder, also known as Matthew Cardona, which will probably be known for on the independents at this point. Um, you knew he was going to have a job. When right after you get fired, the executive vice president of AEW puts up a post on Instagram and it has a bigger, longer promotion of your brand than the one that you put up. You know you have options.
Well, yeah, Zack Ryder Zack Ryder is just a promotional machine. It's evident even from his time in WWE. You don't need the company
In
to
the
get yourself over.
No, in the first day that he was fired, he changed his hashtag that he's been doing still here to not there, and then immediately gave that over to Pro Wrestle Tees to turn into a shirt. And in one day, it became the hottest selling T-shirt on Pro Wrestling Tees.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, even going all the way back to the True Z Long Island story or whatever that was that had the other Big O, which we don't talk about
yes,
him.
he also
The man's just he's in line with those other ones that I'm talking about. Like he has that natural charisma that you just go ahead and you put him in front of a camera and he's going to be able to put on a show for you.
yeah as I look at some of these guys, it's just like it's wasted talent. There's guys here that if you had the common sense to use properly, you could have been making so much more money with. But that's another thing in the WWE, and maybe it was something we'll dig in a little deeper. I think Matt Cardona is going to probably really hit it big now that he's out of the WWE. That's been my opinion for the longest time. It's just again, like when do they do all this stuff? They do it when none of these guys can do anything except for sit at home with a finger up their butt and maybe make some YouTube videos. That's all they can really do right now.
Right. The only place that's actually offering any kind of availability to work would be Florida, since they deemed wrestling an essential business, not just the
It's
WWE.
ridiculous.
But even then, it's a matter of whatever brands may be down there in there trying to get things going again, if they are planning on doing it, or someone traveling down to Florida in order to do their own things. Not
That
everyone's going to be like AEW going to the Hardy compound. Not everyone's going to be like WWE going up on top of the Titan Tower.
No,
So,
but even if you look at this list of some people that were fired, some of these people actually at their own risk, went from their homes in other areas of the country down to Florida to do Raw tapings and SmackDown tapings, and here they are on the list. I think I could be wrong. I don't really watch Raw that much, but I believe Denona Purrazzo was recently on an episode and lost to Nia Jax, and it was like the next day that she
Yeah,
was let go. So
yeah.
here's a
Dina
woman.
Perrazzo was well, she was one of those traveling NXT talent. I mean, the majority of the list that we have of superstars that were let go, it was majority Raw. So a lot of this happened after that night's episode,
Well, it's like you
like
you
2 days
convince these
after.
people to come down to this show at their own health, at the risk of their own health,
Hmm.
and then you immediately fire them. And again, I'm gonna harp on this throughout the entire episode. None of these people need to be fired.
Right,
If you need to fire them eventually, if like in 2 months it's like, okay, we need to cut the fat a little more places. Okay, I can understand, but don't like when people are desperate and like they need the money, they need the health care insurance, and you can afford to give it to them. Don't throw them on the back. This is a PR nightmare, I think, for the WWE. And I'm just wondering, is it in Vince's head? Does he think like, oh well, they're just going to accept it like they always accept it, and we'll move on with life?
well, I think that's really the biggest stick in the craw here, the timing of everything that actually paced out. Because at first, not only did you have WrestleMania, not only was it like a big trending event, it actually did succeed regardless of all the pitfalls. Then you go ahead and you're promoting a whole new pay-per-view that's coming up in next month. You get the state of Florida to say that you are an essential business so you can still keep doing things at the performance center. And then you throw this onto the fire. You've just said that you are capable of working, you are capable of having your employees work, despite all the trappings of Florida. And, that's a whole other thing with people going to the beaches now when they've had their biggest flare up. And then you decide to let people go. And mind you, the whole WWE letting people go thing after WrestleMania, that's not necessarily new. But in this particular time, at this particular place, on that particular day, when you have news coming out that you're perfectly fine to work and you have the money and you're not going to be in default, it's just stupid, ignorant, arrogant planning.
It's not even. Should I call it planning? Maybe it is planning. This is it's. I The other thing I have to say about this, previously 6 years ago, they had something called Black Thursday, which was very similar to this, where they
Yes,
fired a whole
yes,
bunch of
I remember
wrestlers
that.
at the same time. I find this worse because, again, this is not just the wrestlers. This is the wrestlers, the producers, the backstage people, the office people. They fired 40% of their staff. They've never done this before. They've never at a point cut nearly half of their staff in one go to do this and to put so many people out of work at the same time. It's heartbreaking.
Right,
uh
but that's the thing that really gets in my head. The fact that it's that much, you have to imagine that this wasn't necessarily on a whim. There was probably a lot of this that was probably pre-planned,
yeah.
thought about they were going to do it, and they were going to do it after WrestleMania. And unfortunately, it really shouldn't have happened now. I
No,
mean, you had the time, stretch it out, make sure they're at least good by summertime, if nothing else.
it's
Well,
again, it's just it's ridiculous. You don't
it
do
is.
that
It
to
really is.
people. You don't do that to people in the middle of a pandemic where none of them can get jobs anymore. You didn't need to do it. You pretty much you It's like a zombie apocalypse and you have people staying in your house and you throw them out to the wolves to be eaten by zombies because you want a little more food than you wanted to share with them. It's there's no reason for this.
And mind you,
I
you're the one stuck in the house, and they're the ones actually clearing out the hordes.
Yes, I'm I'm a media professional, as are you, but I work a lot more from the technical standpoint. And for years, people have said to me, "Oh, you're a professional wrestling fan. You work in television. Why don't you go work for the WWE?" This is like the reasons I don't go work for the WWE, because I could tell I've been a professional wrestling fan long enough. And as you pointed out a little earlier, I have a finance degree. I studied business. I used WWE a few times as a model of the business that I studied to do a lot of my projects. They are not a company you want to work for. They have a bad corporate environment. And look at this. In the minute that the cards are down, not even a little bit, it's just like just a like there's a slight percent chance I'm not going to get as much money as I want to get, they're going to throw you out like yesterday's garbage. Who would want to work for a company like that?
It's the risk and reward. Some people will go ahead and risk that sort of thing, just knowing that they can always put that on their resume, or that it's a worthwhile paycheck.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
don't even know
it's
how
like
much. I
it's
don't know how
grabbing the
much money they're actually getting.
grass punishment.
Some of these people don't get that much money from this. I think they're just doing it because, like, oh, WWE on a resume that'll look really cool. That's I
Yeah.
think the only reason that most people do it, and it's not worth it. It really isn't.
No, in the long term, no. But obviously they've got no problem with switching out guard. Just trying to get fresh faces, fresh names, fresh ideas, and Vince will stomp on all of them anyways.
It well, no, it's even beyond that. Okay, we're talking about the fresh faces, like we're the new talent, the new writers, new producers, even Howard Finkel, like that we were talking at the top of the program with. He hadn't been on the programming for years, and obviously not because his voice was gone. Because when we saw him accept the Hall of Fame award a few years ago, we could tell he still had his voice.
Hmm.
They let him. They didn't want him doing anymore because he didn't look good on TV. He was only on camera like a portion of the time, and they still didn't want him around to do the announcing. It there. Jr. is another good example from the past where they didn't want him on because they didn't like the fact they had Bell palsy disease. It's like, oh, he's a Southerner and his face looks weird, and because of those two things, we don't want him on our television. We can't say that because it sounds terrible, but that's the reason.
Well, it even goes to all aspects of the company. Remember Jake Johnson, the man who pretty much was the man who scored all those entrance themes for so many of the talents for decades on end.
No, Jim Johnson.
Jim Johnson, sorry,
Yeah,
Jake, something with a J,
he
double
was there
J.
for 30 years. He was one of the I wouldn't say he was one of the first in the company, but he was the music department of the entire company. He ran it completely by himself. And he was the one who developed all the theme songs and all the promos. He was the music of the WWE. Every one of those albums that got released back in the day, WWE Volume 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
Hmm.
etc., that was all him. Even when they got someone else, when they got big name stars in, he was the one helping promote to get them in the door.
Right. And
And
what do
then,
they do? Not only do they let him go, not only do they replace him with the CFOs, but they actually have the CFOs re-record any of those entrance musics that he made so that they could use their version and he wouldn't get paid the royalties.
yeah, they're cold hearted, or more to say, Vince McMahon is cold hearted.
He's a
It,
stone bitch. I mean, if I ever meet the man, maybe I'll shake his hand or I'll just tip my cap to him. But
as
Vince
most people say
McMahon, for
about
all that
him,
he is, he's still a stone bitch.
as most people say about him, and even people like Donald Trump, it's they're when you see them on TV and you hear about all the things they do, they're unlikable. But apparently, when you see them in person, you talk to them, they have a charm to them that just enthralls you, and it tricks you into thinking you can trust everything they say, and then you walk away and realize, God, what did you just make me do? It's
Maybe he was like that at one point. I remember seeing that, what was it, that WWE 24 about Becky Lynch.
mhm.
And there's that scene where Vince just like kind of comes up from behind her and just like, like embraces her and everything. He looks so creep right there and then. And it's like, how is he convincing anyone of anything? He looks like that old man that you tell your kids not to talk to. It's like, I don't get it. I really don't. Maybe in his younger years, maybe back when he was Mr. McMahon on television, but now, no. There's got to be a time when that old guard gets switched out for somebody, even if it is just Triple H.
Well, the problem is you're not going to switch him out unless there's a major, major PR nightmare that involves Vince McMahon.
Like this.
Even no, this is apparently not bad enough. I don't think there is going to be something so horrendous with Vince McMahon that you could get him out, not unless he is accused and convicted of murder or rape. That is, I think, the only two
I
things
like how
that
you
will ever
prefaced
get
it
him
as
out.
saying accused and convicted. Like if he's
Yeah.
accused and doesn't get convicted, he's still Teflon.
Oh yeah, no. He has to be convicted. If he gets acquitted, he's still sticking in. He
So he
owns
needs
the
the full Bill Cosby treatment
he
in
needs to
order
go
for it
to
to work.
he needs to be in jail in order for him to be removed from the WWE.
Oh boy,
He owns the majority of the company. No one can out trying to think of the word here. They can't outvote
oust
him.
him.
Yeah. He has too much voting power in order for him to be removed at any point in time. Oh
Oh.
man, I mean from a lighter standpoint, and I don't know how you can really get lighter with this. I'm just like kind of looking through some of the wrestlers here, and I'm just there's so many things here that it's just ridiculous. How are you promoting Rowan as much as you did? To like giving him like a pet
Mm.
spider and this and that, and you're making him a big deal, and then you job him out for like 2 to 3 weeks and fire him. Did he do something? Did he piss on like someone or something?
Not to
What
my
did he
knowledge,
do
but
that they got rid of him?
then again, that's always kind of been like the wrestling way, or at least the WWE way, where if they're going to go ahead and let go of you eventually, they're going to demoralize you and knock down your character enough that no one's going to want you once you're gone.
I don't
I
think they
mean,
really did that with Rowan. I think he's still
the
actually got
spider
a lot
thing
of
was kind
stock
of.
in. I
I
think
mean,
he's still got enough stock in the that on his way out that he'll get picked up. If anything, and someone will try to stick him with Brody Lee again, and he'll see Brody Lee get pissed off about it. But here's another one that well, Lance Storm, who after he retired, I kind of started following him more. He had his Storm Wrestling Academy and stormwrestling.com, which he used to post articles and opinions and Q&As with fans. uh Lance, for like the last few years, he started his own school up by where he lives, and WWE convinced him to shut down his school and start working for them as a producer. He just started that job, I think, like 4 months ago.
yeah,
Now
and
he's
it
not.
should be noted he's been furloughed as far as anyone can
Yes, I was
say.
about
So
to
there
say
is
that.
always the possibility that they will bring him back, as
Right.
opposed to
So he's not straight out fired. He's furloughed. He's still. It pretty much means like if there's work for you, we'll bring you back on board. But in
right.
the meantime, now he does not have money coming in, and he doesn't, and he can't really reopen his school right now. So, Lance Storm, from everything I've read of him, I'm pretty confident he's got a lot of money stored away, so he should be fine. But to just imagine, just that, like, here, come work for us. Never mind. I've actually
That's the
had
thing. It
that.
was only like 4 months, so I'm not sure how much investment he had in the venture of working for WWE. I'm hoping Lance Storm, being the elder professional he was, he knew to stash enough away, because I mean he's worked for
Yeah,
WWE before in the past.
he's a very smart, very common sense individual. I think if
Very
anyone
serious.
probably, yeah, that's not even really his character. Yeah, it is. He exaggerated it. He exaggerated that character a little bit. He does have a little more humor to him, but for the most part, he's a very serious. He is a very down to earth person. I'm pretty sure he has stocked enough money away that he's safe. I hate when that does happen though to someone where they had a secure job and another company convinces them to come on board and lets them go. That actually happened to a coworker of mine years ago. A guy who was the studio operations manager at one TV station I used to work for, and he was there for nearly 20 years, a very long time. And then one day, this company called Meredith reaches out to him and says, "Hey, we see all these qualifications you. We would love to bring you on board. Would you want a job?" He goes, "Yeah, sure." Goes work for them, and a few months later, go, we can't really afford you. Goodbye. Like, it's,
It's like,
it's
how did you not
ridiculous.
plan ahead? Like,
Like
if
you're
if you're
screwing
opening
with
up
people's
an opportunity for
lives.
somebody, figure at least have like a year's worth of salary available for that position,
Yeah.
just to see whether or not it works.
Yeah, don't convince someone to leave a job that they've had for years to come work for you, and then you not sure if it's going to work out. That's just ridiculous.
Well, that's businesses, though. I mean, things can turn on a dime, unfortunately, and you'll never know what happens.
By the
And
way,
I think that's actually kind of the thing with some of these people that were let go. It's like, not some were just people that unfortunately didn't have anything to do, and that's no fault of their own. Other people were probably a little bit more vocal with certain outrages and certain issues that were going on in the company. And it's one of these things that I once read when I worked in an office building. It's like, don't talk ill of the company, because when the wind blows and you get swept away, you'll be the first one wondering why.
Yeah.
But like someone like, unfortunately, Rusev. Now, I love me some Rusev, but Rusev has definitely been somebody who's been more cheeky about his standing in the company.
Okay, let's talk about Rusev then for a second, because Rusev has been wanting to leave the WWE for a very long time. The
Right,
problem is they wouldn't let him leave. And
right.
when do they let you leave? They let you leave when you're not allowed to get a job anymore. There's something to also be said about these contracts. I think I heard this from Jim Cornette and Brian Last when they were discussing this, but uh, these contracts are so one-sided. Like for the wrestlers, like you're not allowed to leave until the contract's up. We can add extra time on if you weren't working or you were injured. You only have so much of a downside guarantee on these. Once you leave the company, you're not allowed to go anywhere else for the next 3 months. And
And yeah,
then
you are an independent contractor.
for the WWE side of things, they can fire you anytime for any reason. It's ridiculous. How can anyone have a contract so one sided?
It's
You're signing your life away to get on WWE television. Is it worth
yeah.
it?
I mean, if you're in that industry, possibly. And that's the unfortunate thing about it. It's like, if you gotta look at it from like maybe a movie point of view. If there was only like one big name in Hollywood, let's say Warner Brothers.
Hmm.
Let's say Warner Brothers was like the biggest show in town, and you ain't nobody, you ain't an actor of nothing unless you're on a Warner Brothers production. Would you risk everything you have in your career to get up to Warner Brothers status? Or would you go ahead and drivel on with like the Dimension and the Miramax of the worlds? It's about your own personal mentality about what you want to do with your career. And
Which
for
is
a
true.
lot of people, yes, the risk is worth the reward.
I can see that. I can definitely see that.
By the way,
Like
shout out to Warner Brothers.
I'm like I'd say I'm the opposite. I would rather work as an independent filmmaker for probably the rest of my life than ever go to a major studio. That's just me. But a lot of people are different. They want to be famous. They want the name recognition. And a lot of these guys who are leaving the WWE, they do immediately say thank you and stuff because they did get some name recognition off of it. Even though in a lot of cases they change their name and they're not allowed to take it with them to wherever they go.
I
So
don't know.
they have
I'm looking at
semi name.
Rusev's name.
They
It's
have
like, I like his name better.
they have face recognition. That's what they got. What? Well, you know what? I saw something somewhere where someone was redoing the Happy Rusev Day shirt, and it just said Happy Miro Day shirt.
Yeah, his real name is Miroslav. I mean,
Yeah,
oh, that is an ethnic kind of name. I like that.
and
Miroslav.
even if you shrink it down to just Miro, that's pretty catchy on its own. I think that would work pretty well. So yeah, he's got a
Miro
decent
Mondays.
name.
Works.
Zack Ryder's Matt Cardona has a decent name. The other people, not so much. Heath Slater is actually Heath Miller. That could work. Some guys have
I
been smart.
personally, Sarah Logan, I prefer Sarah Rowe.
Yeah. Some people have awesome names and they never use it. Like R-Truth. His real name is Ron Killings. Why would you
Yes.
ever want to be known as anything else in professional wrestling than Ron Killings? Then again, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat's real name was Richard Blood, and he chose Steamboat over Blood. Another thing I don't get.
Yeah,
But
no, WWE's always been weird with their naming. But then you even look at someone like Mike Kanellis, who made his name as his real name, Mike Bennett, anyways. So I mean, he's golden.
yeah, and some guys
That's
were
another one that really sticks to me, because again, the Kanellises, they had signed their 5-year contract, and then shortly after the contract got done, Maria became pregnant.
Mhm.
And they actually used that in storylines. They were talking that, Mike wasn't good enough to be the daddy. And then I thought we were going to go through this whole, like, Vince McMahon, who's the father sort of thing.
Well, you know
And
why that stopped, right?
why?
Because Mike Kanellis and Mike Bennett wanted to quit, and he told them, "I want my release." That's when they stopped doing the storyline. They kind of shifted over to Rusev and Lana because you had a guy who was actively saying, "Hey, I don't want to work for you anymore," and they were promoting him on TV. It's like, no, 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 that's not how it works, and they stopped the storyline.
Right. But I mean that's kind of the messed up thing. I mean, if that's how you want to deal with Mike Kanellis, Mike Bennett, fine. Maria just had the baby.
Yeah,
She's not too far gone having, gotta worry about the postpartum and everything. So you're gonna go ahead and let her go? I mean, you'll go ahead and you'll fire Rusev, but you'll keep Lana. But you'll let go of both Canellises. That's an entire family affected now.
yeah. I don't know. A lot of this seems spiteful to me. I think I could be wrong. This is me making assumptions. By the way, most of the stuff I say on the show is assumptions. But I think since they brought Maria back, and what was it, 3, 4 years ago now? Like she's been pregnant twice, and such has not been able to be featured prominently on WWE television because of it. I'm wondering if maybe this is partially spite and them letting go. They're you. This is how I find any company to kind of do this. The reason you get fired is not always the reason you get fired.
Right.
The written
It's
reason is usually different than the actual reason.
it's
And I
put on the
think
back burner and everything. And unfortunately, I mean, I hate to say it, a lot of businesses treat women after they've had babies in the same capacity.
mhm.
They'll be like, okay, all right, so we can't use you, but we're gonna still pay you, even though you just gave birth to a life. But let's wait and see what else we could do.
Yeah. But I mean, I guess also in their case, like she came back, immediately got pregnant after coming back, so she couldn't be featured. Then when she was ready to come back, she was pregnant again and again couldn't really be featured. Plus her husband was saying, "I don't want to work for you anymore."
Yeah, at that point, maybe it's kind of like best to end it, but
So
still,
I think there's a little spite there. I think there's also, from what I'm hearing, we don't know the reason for this, but wrestlers and other on-air talent have been told not to talk about Roman Reigns as of late. They're not to mention him on television, and I don't know if that's just because they can't feature him right now, or he's being punished for the fact that he didn't want to attend WrestleMania. Which, by the way,
Out-
speaking about kids, not only the main reason he didn't want to go was because, again, he's recovering from chemotherapy, but the exact same time, he also just his wife just gave birth to twins, so he doesn't want to risk their health.
yeah, that Roman is a much trickier situation. Like, look,
Like, yeah, you're not going to fire someone who is probably the semi face of your company at this point.
yeah, that's the thing. Roman, as opposed to all the other people that we've talked about, has been more of a company man, I'd say, than everyone else. You could look down this entire list. You could look at the producers. You could look at the on-air talent. You could look at the writers. You could look at everybody. No one has been under the wing of Vince and his machinations more so than Roman Reigns as of late. That's been like his project. So one could say, yes, maybe Vince is being a little spiteful towards Roman, considering how much he's invested in Roman, as opposed to maybe everyone else that we've mentioned. And yeah, I understand that Roman's going ahead and doing his thing for his family, and that should be respected. I'm of the mind that I want to think, okay, they're simply doing this because since he wasn't featured on WrestleMania and they did all those tapings, it doesn't make sense to promote somebody that's not going to be on the show, even though they've done stuff like that in the past. So
Well,
I don't have to think it's more of a business standpoint where it's like, if you're gonna talk about who you're going to put in a storyline or who you're gonna go up for the championship, you go with the people that you can utilize.
but again, I don't know what happened back in the day, but when Shawn Michaels lost his smile, was there an order going around saying, "Don't ever bring up Shawn Michaels ever again in storyline," or "Don't bring him up on TV"? It's just it's kind of weird. It's like, are you trying to phase him out because eventually you want to get rid of him, or are they going to bring him back and put him on a lower end of the card and job him out?
I don't
What's
think they're going to get rid of Roman Reigns. There is no. I think after the whole Dean Ambrose thing, I think they know better than to get rid of Roman Reigns. But I'm of the mind that's like with what they have to work with right now, until they are at a point where they can safely bring Roman back into the fold. I mean, it's just not something that needs to be mentioned or something that needs to be interjected. So that way, when he does come back, it's going to be to much fanfare and that much more of a surprise.
I don't know if that's what they're going for, but that's just me. I should mention that since Wednesday, when all this happened, there was a few more releases, though. A lot of names that a lot of people might not recognize. They're mostly just NXT people and development people who never really got promoted that much. Uh, but
Some of
the
them I would say I have of note. Some of them I liked, but
the only name that really comes to me, at least, is just because he's been around for so long, not particularly the WWE, but just in on the wrestling scene. Cassius Ohno, also known better by some people as Chris
mm,
Hero, was actually cut a few days later on April 18th.
well,
So
officially, I mean,
yeah,
he was moved to the alumni section, and I guess that was just preemptive.
yeah. I don't know if he kept it as of this recording, but apparently on Twitter, his handle right now is WWE alumni.
Well, I mean, he's somebody who left and came back. It was his second tour of duty in the WWE, and he was really more working just to help advance some of the talent. The last big thing I remember him doing was he was part of Matt Riddle's induction into the NXT. They were both going knockout for knockout with each other, which was kind of cool at the time.
But I guess that's the thing. They never really saw too much in Chris Hero. Remember, he was supposed to be a part of the original Shield before they
Hmm.
replaced him with Roman. I think like he was probably never going to really get any higher than he was anyway. So again, it's another person I hate seeing out of work, but just because again he's been around so long and so many of his friends are in higher places at this point, he'll probably end up someplace again like PGW or ROH or etc.
Well, hopefully he comes back to Jersey and works at one of the wrestle pros that we have over here in the state.
Which I
But
think
yeah,
that's
the
where
NXT talent I think is probably a little bit more surprising for some of them, simply because it's developmental. They're supposed to be bringing
I'm a
up
little
these
less
people.
surprised because again, I'm looking at what I was looking at was actually showing the when they were hired. Some of these guys have been there for 3 to 5 years, and obviously, if you've been in development for that long and you haven't been moved up to anywhere else on the roster, I can kind of see why they might be considering cutting you. Again, it's just not the time to be firing people at a
Right.
time where we're encouraging people like not to hit up people on rent money and not to evict people and stuff, maybe companies should consider not firing people until like there's a job market where people can start looking for jobs again,
Well, that's
or
why I'm
go
saying
outside without dying.
well, that's why I'm saying it hurts the younger people who are in development more so than the established names who have the recognition and can get picked up by most anybody.
Mhm.
Then you have these developmental people who are still trying to like get their name out there to begin with. It's going to be harder for them unless they go to like, far off. Um,
This may in fact be their last stint in professional wrestling too. We
it very
don't know
well could
that.
be. This could be the part that demoralizes them into the point of not wanting to continue in the industry.
Mhm.
And that's a
So
shame because some of these people they have great looks. They're very talented. I'm looking at the list. Tino Sabatelli, who used to work with Riddick Moss before he got brought up to the main roster. Cesar Bononi was another great talent. Tanaya Conti, she was one of the best women that I liked in the Mae Young Classic. And I don't know if it's because her Brazilian sense of style. I don't know what it was, but she just had like a look about her. It's like, oh, she was gonna fuck somebody up, and she was gonna be steamed when she did it, and it was gonna look fun.
I yeah, again, I think once things start, I don't know when the world's going to turn back to normal at this point. We're taping this as of April 19th, and we're now hearing things like it may return back during the summer. It may come, the disease might come back in the fall. We might not be safe for 2 years. Some people are saying we might not be able to really get out until 2022. The world's changing, and I don't know if these people are going to be able, even the established ones. I have some doubts, but I don't know. Again, this just sickens me from the WWE. They again they didn't need to do it. If it came to a point where they did, I would understand. But even from a business point, this is just cold hearted. And I
Yeah,
don't know what else to
and you
add
can
to
always
that.
try to look on the bright side of things if you want to. And you speak about Black Thursday and all the people that were let go there, and if you look back and you see those people that were let go, the majority of them have done great things since that turbulent firing,
Uh,
especially now the now current WWE champion Drew McIntyre. Um, it's one of those things where you want to be hopeful and you want to think that things are going to work out for the best.
yes.
Uh, Again, things are unprecedented because no one has had to deal with anything like this in decades, let alone just a few years ago.
Yeah, I mean, the last real big pandemic. Man, I'm bad at English sometimes.
Pandemic.
The last time we really was like this was a century ago. In today's age, I don't think anyone expected something this bad, but it's
Not to mention,
here.
I don't know
And
how present wrestling was back then. I think they still did the whole bare knuckle boxing with like the mustaches and the fisticuffs.
well,
So
yeah, wrestling didn't really become what it was until the Golden Trio in around the 1920 period, I believe. I had to recheck
yeah,
my
when they got
history
away
there.
with away from all the Russian guys fighting bears, I think.
Yeah. But keeping on topic here, real quick. I had a point to
Yeah,
make.
is there any more WWE bashing we can do? Because I feel like
Oh,
there's
plenty.
just so
I
much.
can do this all day.
Okay, Cap.
On a lighter note, actually, this is still very bad because this is in regards to one of the people who were let go. But the day that everyone was let go was April 15th, which is normally known as Tax Day, and one of the people who was released was Mike Rotunda, who is better known as IRS. So
That's where you wanted to go with that.
so on tax day, they released IRS. I know it's bad. Just but and I'm still in for Brian Lass, but
Well, no, hold on, because you bring that up, and that actually confuses me a little bit.
how
Because,
so?
because Mike Rotunda, you have to think both his boys are still employed. One of them
Yes.
being Bray Wyatt, the Fiend, possibly the most notable entity of the
Oh,
last few
and
months.
as of SmackDown, I believe he's once again the number one contender for the Universal Championship. He could be
Yeah,
the Universal Champion again very soon.
yeah. So you really want to spite the family by axing their dad?
Well, it's Vince McMahon. He has no shame. Hell, I'm actually surprised they didn't get rid of Bo Dallas with all these cuts.
Well, that's the thing. It's like
Actually,
we could
even
always think
Curtis,
about who deserves to be cut, or
I'm not
well,
even
really,
saying
no
who
one deserves to be
deserves. I'm not
cut.
saying
But
deserves. I'm just saying there's a few
but there are
names that
certainly some people that probably are less utilized than others for
yeah,
whatever reason.
and again, in fairness, Mike Rotundo, again, as we were saying before, he wasn't fired; he was furloughed, so
Right.
he
But
could
even
always be
then, I'm
brought back
surprised.
in. Well, I think what they did was they were furloughing anyone who didn't live in the state of Florida. They're just keeping the staff that they need who already lives there. So these people who were not nearby, that's why they got furloughed. And again, Mike Rotunda, he's been in the business, what, 40, 50 years at this point. So I think he's used to stuff like this and he probably has rainy day money saved away himself.
Well, yeah,
Um,
that reminds me of like back
I
on
hope
the whole
IRS
Black
does.
Thursday thing with Malenko. Malenko was let go because obviously he was old hat, and that's
Yeah.
probably Rotunda and Finley and
Well,
all
no,
those other guys.
with Dean Malenko, what I believe happened is he was involved with some sort of. Or am I thinking Fit Finley? Like someone was. No, I'm thinking Arn Anderson. I apologize.
Yeah, no,
Never
Arn
mind.
was the one with the whole drunken Alicia Fox thing.
Yeah, okay, never mind. I thought Dean Ambrose had or Dean Malenko, not Dean Ambrose, had something similar, but I guess not. Um, I don't know. Yeah, but yeah, like you said, there is some positives comes out of this. Not to promote anyone outside of us, but Woke Culture Wrestling, who does some really great wrestling lists on YouTube. They just came out with a release of where everyone was from Black Thursday a few years back, as you mentioned. Drew Galloway, Drew McIntyre, Drew Gallows
Well,
is what he was called on the Independents. Um, Drew Galloway is what he's called in the Independents. Goddamn names. Just keep one name. Drew McIntyre is now the WWE champion. Of course, also released then was uh, Jinder Mahal, who later became WWE champion. Though, in those names, did you catch one that may have been a repeat? I hate to say it. I feel bad for the guy. But it was, I remember being such a big deal back then, and Curtis Hawkins being released during Black Thursday. And where's he now? He was released as a part of this one too. He also just had a new child. No. He has a child, and his wife is pregnant. So there's another one with a child on the way.
yeah, I kind of want to see Kurt Hawkins go to AEW and become their world champion within like a year's time.
I
Just
don't think, nah, that's not
just
going
to
to happen.
spit it at WWE because they haven't given him a fair shake since he was part of the Edgeheads.
I,
Seriously.
I like Brian Myers, but like I said, out of that group, I think the most driven is really Matt Cardona. But Brian Myers, I think again, he's also friends with Cody. I think he's friends with Marty Scurll as well. So he once things start getting better, I think he has a job too. Okay, yeah, you know what? You're right. This is starting to get a little depressing. WWE sucks. Don't watch them. I'm a little I'm a little torn because I kind of want to see this Money in the Bank now, but I think just out of protest for this, I'm probably not going to watch it. I'm intrigued, but maybe I'll just read the results.
Yeah, no, I
I
mean,
don't
Lord
think
knows
I'm
the
not going to
ratings
watch it.
themselves have been going down on Raw and SmackDown, and one can only imagine whether or not all this news has had some impact on it. I want to think that if the buyouts or the buy-ins, however you want to phrase it, for Money in the Bank are extremely low, maybe they'll get the hint.
I
Because
hope.
WrestleMania was already like one thing; it in itself was an anomaly. Now we have
I,
to see whether or not lightning strikes twice.
I'm at a point where I know this is not going to happen, but I just don't want WWE to be the number one wrestling company in the world because they've proven that they are not someone worthy of wielding that power. But
Right.
that's just me. That's one of the reasons I promote companies like
And
ROH and
that's really the funny part about
AEW. I promote those companies because I believe in them a lot more, at least
it.
in terms of how they treat their talent and their workers than anyone else. AEW is not only have they not fired anyone right now, they still are giving everyone full pay and health benefits.
So is Ring of Honor, so is New
Oh
Japan.
yeah, ROH is like everyone who was supposed to be part of the pay per view that this month. They paid them in full up to the pay per view. They're continuing. They're keeping them on the roster, and they're not firing anyone. And when all this started breaking out, anyone who was already in the United States, they immediately sent them home so they wouldn't be stuck here. Like
Right.
ROH is actually doing really good by their talent right now.
Marty Scurll might have something to do with that.
Yeah, that's true. They do got someone running. I don't know how much power Marty really has in the company at this point. I know his position's head booker, but yeah, there's definitely someone there who I what I've seen of Marty, I trust him. But all right, so yeah, we've done enough bashing on wrestling. WWE bad, other people good. Let's
Gotta say it
we
like
we we
Frankenstein.
we only have a few minutes left, so let's talk about some other good news. And someone who's been really good with the good news as of late has been I'm going to let you say his name because I always screw up his last name
How do you screw up John Krasinski?
very easily.
That's John Krasinski. No, this is something I wanted to touch on because I knew the WWE stuff was going to be dour, for lack of a better term. So, if nothing else, I just wanted to touch on something that was going to be lighthearted. And really, there's nothing that's been more lighthearted as of late than John Krasinski, who's gone ahead and been doing his Some Good News YouTube channel within the past month or so. It's pretty much just him going ahead and touting out the hashtag Some Good News and then doing like a little report from his home about all the different good things that people are doing in this crisis with their families, for each other, just a whole swell of positivity. And he's actually gone out of his way to get people of note to help him out with a lot of this stuff. Like Some people might see on YouTube that whole thing of the original cast of Hamilton doing a number for just a little girl who wasn't able to go see Hamilton because everything got canceled. And then there's the stuff over at the Boston Red Sox that not that I care about the Boston Red Sox because I'm a Yankees fan, but doing that for the people that were working there at the local hospital, and setting them up with box seats for life. It's one of those
Really?
things where it's like you really have to appreciate the power that this one guy is able to amass for such a good cause. And he's just doing it because why not? He's not gaining any kind of monetary incentive for any of this stuff. He's not sponsored. It's not a contractual obligation. It's just something he wanted to do. And that makes me look at him with like so much more light than I would have. And mind you, I've never watched The Office. I have never once watched an episode of The Office, as much as people like to talk about it. This is enough to make me want to start watching.
So well, I figured you were a fan of him other stuff because he did do The Quiet Place, which I think you were still working in a movie theater at the time that was out.
Oh, yeah. No, Quiet Place was good. And obviously they have the sequel that was supposed to be coming out just last month, actually. The sequel is supposed to have come
Yeah.
out, and that's been pushed back. I don't even know if they've have a date reset for it.
Yeah, and it
But I
has
mean, right now he's on my radar when he wasn't before, and I'm really enjoying the stuff. Just this week, he had the S SGN prom. So he actually had like an online prom go on Friday night where everyone could go ahead. They could go and just start dancing. He played DJ for the damn thing. He had his glasses on. He had his turntable. He,
that's pretty cool.
he got Billie Eilish, the Jonas Brothers, Chance the Rapper, his old office buddy Rainn Wilson to get on the podcast, and he just played music for like a couple of hours. And everyone just got on and danced and showed their videos and showed that they were participating. People dressed up for it. And that really felt good for all those kids that are going to have to miss out on this sort of stuff.
Yeah, so on social media, they've had this really stupid meme as of late, like share your graduation picture just for the class of 2020, and it's such
Yeah,
a
don't do
stupid
that. That's
meme.
how they
But
get you right
with
in.
this one, it's so much better because I didn't even know he did this. That you saying this is the first time I heard about this, but that's cool. You're getting all these kids involved. You're getting all these famous people to actually live sing a lot of this stuff. That's cool. That I do like. I don't know much about him. I know I did watch The Office, so I remember him as Jim and stuff. But it seems like his stock is on the rise. And in fact, recently I believe he's been in talks with MCU about possibly showing up in a future Fantastic Four movie as I believe Mr. Fantastic himself.
Well,
Uh,
that's always been the idea that they were going to go ahead and get him for
right.
Mr. Fantastic and
Because
Emily Blunt for the Invisible Woman.
they've been doing kind of like with him that they did back in the day with Samuel L. Jackson, where the current character design of Mr. Fantastic is based a lot off of John. So I think they've been trying to set things up to kind of put him in that role.
Yes, although there has been some speculation that since it's been these kinds of talks, Fantastic Four is a possibility. Mr. Fantastic is a possibility, but also the rumor mill has gone around that he could be brought in as something else, kind of like a surprise character in the way that Peter Dinklage was being told that he was going to be a part of Infinity War, and then
Mhm.
they end up making him like the giant troll that helps with the hammer. And you're thinking, wow, what villain is Peter Dinklage going to be? It's like, oh no,
Nope.
it's just that. So
He's
they may
just
just be
this
doing
one
it for the
part.
name recognizability at this point. Personally, this is one rumor that I've heard that I really think would be funny. So there is talks of a third Ant-Man Wasp movie. The idea is that not only are they bringing back Walter Goggins' villain from the second movie,
Mhm.
they might introduce MODOK.
Well, wasn't there a rumor that Murdoch was going to be someone else? I thought they already confirmed his character.
No. There was the talk about him having his own animated show on Hulu until that all stuff got canceled.
No,
But outside of that, I haven't heard.
I don't have it in front of me, but I
I would
remember
love to
that
see
I
if
remember
they.
s someone else was up for that role. It wasn't him. It wasn't John. It was,
Well,
and
if you can find out who is and if it's a better name than John Krasinski at this point, because that would just drive the movie. Plus, he has the comedic timing to make something like MODOK menacing, and yet it'd still be funny. And that's where I think you really want to go with it, because I don't know if I necessarily want to see Krasinski be super serious, and someone like Reed Richards would be super serious.
oh, actually, crap, I just moved away from it. I saw MODOK in a picture of the guy we mentioned before that, Peter Dinklage. So I think there was a rumor about Peter Dinklage doing it.
Well,
And for
I
some
think that was probably back during Infinity War and everything, I guess. It wouldn't be now because
and
they've already used them.
and I keep thinking Bruce Campbell in my head, but then again, maybe I'm thinking that because he had a similar character in Megas XLR in back in the day.
Oh,
I'll
that's
have to look.
right.
I'll
He
have
was
to
that
look that up.
alien with the big head.
Yeah. All right.
But I mean, regardless of what they choose to use him as, I mean, it's one of those things where it's natural that they're probably going to put him with his wife, because the wife's already on retainer with Disney. You know, she's got the Jungle Cruise movie. She already did Mary Poppins, so she's under Disney contract. And when you're under Disney contract, it's not just for one franchise. So if he's being brought in, then she's probably going to be brought in. And if they do that together, then it just makes me wonder who they're going to get for the Human Torch and the Thing.
It'd be a
But
wonder
would
to
you be
see
interested in seeing a Fantastic Four movie after the 3 that we've already had?
if the MCU did it. Yes. They're still some of the most popular characters in the Marvel universe. I think what the MCU has kind of proven over time is they can take a character that's not known very well to the majority of the public and turn them into a really great character that everyone loves. I'm trying to think of an example off the top of my head now, because
Guardians,
some of these
the Guardians, I would imagine.
Guardians, like no one really knew the Guardians of the Galaxy before the movie came out, but now they're some of the most popular characters in the Marvel universe. And there's a few other examples as well. It's just I can't think of them off the top of my head because they're now such popular characters. I don't really remember them being not popular now.
Well, even Iron Man to an extent wasn't as
Yeah,
popular, because at the time you had the X-Men and you had Spider-Man. You had anyone that had like an animated show on Fox was
yeah.
more popular
Well,
than what you got in Marvel.
Iron Man did have a cartoon, but it was like a Sunday morning on a syndication cartoon. Whereas,
Along with the
Spider Man,
Fantastic Four. They were the
yeah,
same
along
block.
with the Fantastic Four. But at the same exact time, I think I would definitely see a Fantastic Four movie if it was produced by the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because I think they would do it right. I think they would do it justice, as opposed to Fox, who has not really done much right. But I hate to stop you in your tracks, my friend, but we are running out of time. So,
Yeah, no, I could fantasy book the whole day if I wanted to, but I got
so,
things to do, and obviously so do you.
ladies and gentlemen, I thank you again for joining us on this episode of the JT and Big O podcast. I know a lot of it was complaining about the WWE, but hey, that's us. We're wrestling fans, and that's bullshit. We'll be back again next week, like we always are. Until then, I am Video Geek JT, and you can find me on my social media through my website, videogeekjt.com. And Big O, you can find him on his social media through Real or Deal Entertainment, and you can find it through the usernames on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook as Real or Deal. Anything else, my friend, that you like to add before we call it quits?
If anyone happens to have a subscription to the WWE Network and are deciding to keep it, look, that's completely your decision. Just, patch me into your Zoom so I can watch if I need to. But until that time comes, I am going to back away and just let all that transpire to its dismay.
And on my end, if you have a subscription to the WWE Network, people go have the subscription at this point are people who go to Extra Hell. No, no, I'm joking. I'm like, if you have the network, you're fine.
Telling people to do
I
that
back down that
$9.99.
really fast. All right, ladies and gentlemen, with that, we will again see you next week. Until then, I bid you adieu. Bye bye.
Good night.